Boys and girls, we're going to talk about the way that heat can be transferred. When heat's transferred, that just means that heat is moving, because that's what heat does. That's what heat is. Heat is the movement of particles or molecules of matter. So there are three ways that heat can move. The first one we're going to talk about is conduction. Conduction is the movement of heat between two objects that are touching. So like when a hot object is touching a colder object, the heat is transferred. The heat moves from the hotter object to the colder object because those objects are touching. This usually happens most effectively in solids. So for example, I have a pot here. And if I put the pot on the stove, the pot is going to heat up because it's touching the stove. That's conduction. Then if I take some margarine or butter and I take a spoonful of this and I put it inside of the pot and it's on the stove, then the margarine or butter is going to heat up because it's touching the hot pot, which is then also touching the hot stove. So all of those things are heating up because of conduction, because a colder thing is touching a hotter thing and the heat moves from the hot thing to the cold thing. The heat moves from the hot stove to my pot. The heat then moves from the hot pot to the butter or margarine that's inside, and it causes it to heat up. Again, that's conduction, when two things are touching and heat is transferred. The second type of heat transfer is called convection with a V, convection. And convection is when heat moves through a liquid or a gas. So let's say I have my pot and I have water in it this time, and I want to make some macaroni and cheese or shells and cheese. And if I want to make my shells and cheese, I'm going to put it in the water, the hot water, and the heat is moving through the hot water and circulating throughout the hot water to cook my mac and cheese. So the water heats up in the bottom part of the pot first, the hot water rises, the cool water sinks down, and that kind of keeps happening. It creates this cycle, or what's called a current. And the hot water keeps rising, the cold water keeps going down, the hot water keeps rising, the cold water keeps going down. It creates this current, and that's called a convection current. And so that's convection, where the heat is kind of flowing in that cycle or current, and it's where heat is moving through a liquid or a gas, okay? That's convection. The third type of heat transfer, or the third way that heat can move, is through radiation. So I don't have any prop to hold up for this one because radiation usually happens from the sun. Think about how the sun, if your car is parked outside and the sun, it's a bright sunny day and your car is parked outside, after a while, if you go to get in your car, it's going to feel really hot inside, right? Even if it's like a cold day outside, the heat from the sun can still heat up your car. This is called radiation. And radiation is when heat moves from the sun through space to heat something up on Earth. That's radiation. Heat from the sun moving through space to heat something up on Earth. We can also kind of feel this from fire is another example of radiation, where heat moves from the fire and kind of outwards in all directions to heat up everything around it. It's not moving in a circle or a cycle like convection. Radiation just moves outward in all directions from a fire or downward from the sun. So again, those are three ways that heat can be transferred or moved. Conduction, where two things have to be touching for the heat to transfer. Convection, where heat is moving through a liquid or a gas. And the third way is radiation, where heat is moving from the sun through space to heat something up on Earth, or from a fire kind of outward, just kind of straight outward in all directions to heat something up around it. All right, so I hope that helps. Send me an email if you're at home and you have some questions and you're not sure about this. You also have a couple things to read about conduction, convection, and radiation today with 3 questions to answer.